The Elysium drifted through the void, the stars twinkling like distant memories. Captain Alara Soren stood on the bridge, her brow furrowed with concern as she reviewed the ship's sensor data. They had received a distress signal from the Leviathan outpost, but the readings indicated something was terribly wrong. The station had been silent for years, and now it was emitting a weak signal that sent shivers down her spine. "Prepare a shuttle," Alara commanded, her voice steady despite the unease creeping into her mind. "We need to investigate." Dr. Milo Thorne joined her, his fingers dancing nervously over his datapad. "Captain, I've studied the Leviathan before. It was once a hub for scientific research, but it was abandoned under mysterious circumstances. The crew disappeared without a trace." "Exactly why we need to know what happened," Alara replied, determination in her eyes. "We can't leave anyone in distress." As the shuttle descended toward the station, Lieutenant Zara Keth secured her weapon, her heart pounding with anticipation. "I don't like this, Captain. Something feels off." Alara nodded, understanding the feeling all too well. "Stay alert. We'll be in and out." Once they landed, the crew stepped onto the cold metal of the station's docking bay, the silence enveloping them like a shroud. Flickering lights cast eerie shadows, and a sense of foreboding settled in. Alara led the way, her pulse quickening as they moved through the darkened corridors. Dr. Thorne scanned the environment, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. "This place, it's like a tomb. The atmosphere feels charged, as if something is watching us." They reached a control room, where the screens flickered to life, revealing fragmented logs from the previous crew. The entries spoke of strange phenomena, whispers in the dark, and a creeping dread that settled over them like a fog. The last entry sent chills down their spines. "We're not alone. The void is alive, and it knows our fears." As the logs played, a loud crash echoed through the station, startling the crew. Zara raised her weapon, her instincts kicking in. "What was that?" Alara's voice trembled slightly as she replied, "We need to check it out. Stay together." They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the empty halls. As they approached the source of the noise, they discovered a massive bay window overlooking the abyss of space. Suddenly, shadows flickered outside, and Corin, the alien engineer, pressed his hands against the glass, his eyes wide with horror. "They're coming!" he screamed, his telepathic senses overwhelmed by the presence outside. A feeling of dread washed over the crew as they turned to face the dark void. In the distance, vague shapes began to take form, twisted, indistinct figures that seemed to shift and writhe, feeding off their fear. The whispers grew louder, echoing their deepest insecurities and regrets. Dr. Thorne collapsed to the ground, clutching his head. "No, not again. I thought I was done with this." Memories of his past failures flooded back, experiments gone wrong, lives lost because of his decisions. Zara knelt beside him, her fierce exterior cracking as she reached out. "Milo, focus on us. We can get through this." Alara took charge, her voice steady. "We need to regroup. Corin, can you access the station's systems?" Corin struggled to maintain control, overwhelmed by the collective dread. "I can try, but I don't know if it will help. The station, it feeds off fear." As Corin began to work, Alara felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on her. She had always been the strong one, but now the shadows were clawing at her resolve. "We have to hold it together. For each other." Suddenly, the lights flickered violently, and a cacophony of voices erupted, drowning them in a wave of despair. Each crew member faced their darkest fears. Zara saw her fallen comrades, lost in battle. Dr. Thorne relived the moment of failure that haunted him, and Alara was confronted by the fear of losing her crew, her family. "Fight it," Alara shouted, clenching her fists. "We are stronger than this." In a moment of clarity, Corin activated the control panel, sending a pulse of energy through the station. "I can create a barrier. It might buy us time." As the energy surged, the shadows shrieked, momentarily retreating. Alara seized the opportunity. "We need to get to the shuttle. Now!" The crew sprinted through the twisting corridors, fear pushing them forward. The whispers turned into a deafening roar, clawing at their minds as they fought to reach the bay. With each step, they felt the weight of the void pressing against them, trying to drag them back into the darkness. They burst into the docking bay, breathless and terrified. The shuttle loomed before them, a beacon of hope in the encroaching despair. Zara quickly activated the shuttle's systems while Alara and Corin kept watch. Dr. Thorne stood at the bay window, battling the whispers in his mind. "I can't leave. I have to face this." "No," Alara yelled, pulling him back. "We face it together." As the shadows surged forward, threatening to engulf them, the crew formed a circle, their hands clasped tightly. They closed their eyes, focusing on the bond they had forged through their trials. With a united front, they summoned their courage, pushing back against the darkness. The energy from Corin's barrier pulsed around them, creating a protective shield. The whispers began to fade, and the shadows recoiled, hissing in frustration. With a final surge of will, Alara shouted, "Now, get to the shuttle." They dashed inside, and Zara slammed the door shut as Corin activated the thrusters. The shuttle roared to life, lifting off from the station just as the darkness closed in, unable to penetrate the barrier they had created. As they broke free from the station's grip, the crew sat in stunned silence, their hearts racing. The Leviathan outpost receded into the distance, swallowed by the void, leaving behind its echoes of terror. Dr. Thorne looked around at his comrades, tears in his eyes. "We did it. Together." Alara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We'll always face the darkness together." As they navigated back to the Elysium, the stars shone brightly around them, a reminder of hope amidst the vast, unforgiving cosmos. Though the echoes of the void would linger in their minds, they had emerged stronger, bound by their shared experience, a family forged in the depths of fear. The Aetheris floated silently in the blackness of space, a sleek marvel of human engineering designed to traverse the galaxy. Commander Lena Reyes stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the swirling nebula outside. The beauty of the cosmos felt hollow as she recalled the mission brief, a grim directive to capture human subjects for the Vothari. "Commander, we've detected an anomaly on the planet below," Eli Carter reported, his voice laced with anxiety. "It appears to be a small settlement." Lena's heart sank. "Is it populated?" "Yes, but they're mostly isolated. We could acquire some subjects without drawing too much attention," Eli replied, his guilt evident in his tone. "Do it," Lena ordered, her voice firm. "We have no choice. The Vothari will not take kindly to failure." As the Aetheris descended toward the planet, Dr. Fiona Lee joined them on the bridge, her expression conflicted. "Lena, there has to be another way. We can't keep sacrificing innocent lives. There must be a way to communicate with the Vothari." "There's no time for idealism, Fiona," Lena shot back, the weight of their situation pressing down on her. "We need to fulfill our end of the bargain to survive." Sergeant Jonah Pierce stood off to the side, his face pale as memories flooded back, the day he had lost everything to the Vothari. He gritted his teeth, wrestling with his own demons. "We can't let this happen again. Not to anyone else." The Aetheris landed silently on the outskirts of the settlement. A cold wind swept through the trees, rustling the leaves as the crew prepared for the operation. Lena donned her tactical gear, her heart heavy with the weight of their mission. As they stepped into the alien night, shadows danced beneath the moonlight. The crew moved cautiously through the underbrush, adrenaline surging as they approached the settlement. Villagers roamed the area, unaware of the impending horror. "Eli, activate the cloaking device," Lena whispered. The Aetheris shimmered into invisibility, rendering it undetectable to the human eye. "Just a quick scan," Eli said, his fingers flying over the console. "We'll see if anyone has the right genetic markers." As they surveyed the village, Dr. Lee's gaze lingered on the villagers, their laughter echoing in the night. "They're just people, Lena. We can't take them." "Do you want to die, Fiona?" Lena shot back, frustration boiling over. "We need to think of our lives first." Suddenly, alarms blared on the ship, echoing through the stillness of the night. Eli's face turned white. "They've detected us. We need to move." A cacophony of confusion erupted as the crew raced back toward the cloaked ship, their hearts pounding. The villagers looked up, eyes wide with fear as they caught sight of the strange light in the sky. "We can't leave without someone," Jonah shouted, his voice breaking. He sprinted toward the nearest house, torn between his mission and the horror of what they were doing. "No, Jonah, come back," Lena called after him, but he was already inside. Inside the house, Jonah found a family huddled together, fear etched on their faces. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said, holding his hands up. "We just need to get you out." But before he could react, a bright light engulfed him, and the family vanished before his eyes. He gasped, the realization crashing down on him. The Vothari had come for him. He was the next target. Meanwhile, outside, Lena and Fiona watched as shadows darted between the trees, the Vothari warriors stalking their prey. Panic surged through Lena. "We have to leave now. We're out of time." Dr. Lee gripped abandon him. "It's too late," Lena shouted, but deep down, a part of her screamed in protest. Eli was already at the ship, desperate to launch. "We can't wait. They'll find us." Jonah emerged from the house, breathless and shaken, but with a fierce determination in his eyes. "We can't do this. Not like this." The ground trembled as the Vothari ships descended from the sky, their dark silhouettes looming over the village. The air crackled with tension as they unleashed beams of light, disorienting the crew and the villagers alike. "Get to the ship," Lena ordered, but Jonah hesitated, torn between the crew he had fought beside and the innocent lives at stake. As chaos erupted, Jonah sprinted toward the villagers, shouting, "Get to safety! Run!" Dr. Lee followed him, her heart racing. "Jonah, what are you doing? We need to go. I won't let them take anyone else." Jonah roared, standing his ground against the advancing shadows. "They can't have you." The Vothari emerged from the darkness, their twisted forms towering over the villagers, their eyes glowing with a malevolent hunger. The villagers screamed, scattering in fear as Jonah fought back, his heart pounding with every strike. Lena watched in horror, torn between her mission and her growing admiration for Jonah's bravery. "We need to help him," she yelled, but Eli grabbed her arm. "No, we have to leave before it's too late." In that moment, the shadows surged forward, enveloping Jonah in darkness. He screamed, his body writhing as the Vothari's power overwhelmed him. Lena felt a pang of guilt stab at her heart, but it was too late to save him. "Let's go," she shouted, forcing herself to turn away as the ship's engines roared to life. They climbed aboard the Aetherus, leaving Jonah behind to face the horrors alone. As they ascended into the night sky, the sounds of the village faded into the distance. The reality of their actions hit Lena like a punch to the gut. "We just left him," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Dr. Lee turned to her, anguish etched on her features. "We can't let this continue. We have to find a way to stop the Vothari." Eli, still at the controls, shook his head. "We can't fight them, we're outmatched." But as they flew into the depths of space, Lena's resolve hardened. "No more. We'll find a way to end this, for Jonah." As they approached the Vothari's stronghold, the crew realized they were not just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for the souls they had sacrificed, and for the hope of a better future. Lena's voice rang with determination. "We may be outnumbered, but we have each other. We will reclaim our humanity."